First of all, an amazing film. So congratulations. I'm super excited for everyone to see it. I wanted to know why did you want to be a part or wanted to help tell this story about this French prodigy and activist?
First and foremost, I had never heard of Joseph Bologna Chevalier. I'd never heard of him. And I bet I'm not the only one out there who had not heard of him. And so it felt really important to tell the story of this forgotten musical revolutionary. And then just on a personal level, he's from Guadeloupe, an island in the Caribbean. I'm from Jamaica. Both of us
Oh,
made our way to Europe at a very young age, and so there were many aspects of his personal story that felt uh, similar to my own journey. And those two elements combined made it, really compelling story for me to want to tell.
awesome. As I was watching it, just one theme that just kind of kept going with every scenario or situation that came was, you're still just a Black man with all your talents, with all of your the money and the popularity you have, you still are a Black man. Can you just talk a little bit about that particular theme?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that what's so interesting about what you just said is that movie set in pre-revolutionary France, 1700s. But the more I delved into the life story of this person that I had never heard of before I was fortunate enough to receive the script from Searchlight Pictures. And the script, by the way, was, a brilliantly written piece by Stephanie Robinson, who, is a writer on Atlanta and What We Do in the Shadows and a producer of our movie as well. And she had heard about Chevalier when she was a teenager and had wanted to tell the story for a long time. She's one of the few people I know who had heard about him. Uh, the more I delved into it, was the more I realized that despite the period setting of the movie, if you squinted and there were no wigs and no costumes, it's a story that could be happening today. It's contemporary. It could be, there are many, many of us who recognize that narrative journey, that story, those elements of that, of Joseph's, traversing through life. And, people from Malcolm X have said, the famous Malcolm X quote, what do you call a Black man with a PhD? And the answer to that question. And I think that Barack Obama had his eyes opened to some degree once he wound up in the White House, and during the State of the Union address was treated with a degree of disregard that I think was reserved in this country for people who are brown or Black, people of color. And so, I think that those are just two examples, but they're multiplied across the entire tapestry of this country. And unfortunately, and so, yeah, that was a very important part of me relating to that story. I was like, wow, the French say them, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose, which means the more things change, the more they stay the same. So,
Mhm.
so
Very
yeah,
true.
that was a big part of the story.
So, what was the most difficult part about directing this period piece?
Just, I think, part of following from what we just talked about, this idea for me, the challenge was I didn't want to make what Stephanie often says, we weren't trying to make a Wikipedia page. We weren't trying to do masterpiece theater. We weren't trying to do a traditional biopic. For us, this is a not quite biopic. There are elements of the movie that are imagined and other elements of the movie that are factual. And the mashup of those two things hopefully gets us close to the truth of this person's story. So blending those elements and blending the period authenticity, but with a contemporary vibe, moving the camera and having the actors' behavior and physicality feel contemporary, so it wasn't alienating a modern audience, but at the same time wasn't disavowing the time period in which it happened. Calibrating the balance between those two elements was probably the trickiest thing.
Understood. Yeah, after I watched it, I then did some research. I'm like, wait, that's not how it happened, or that's not what happened. So I love that at the core of it, you got the essence of who this person was, right? Which I guess could help to move people to learn more about him.
Exactly right. I think there's a great quote by an English playwright Interestingly enough, he's actually from the Czech Republic where we shot the movie, but that's a whole other story. But he basically says, his name's Tom Stoppard, and he said, facts are facts, but the truth is something else entirely and is a product of the imagination. And I think that that was the guiding kind of North Star in how we told this story. We were interested in getting at the essential truth of the character, and sometimes you have to invent things in order to get closer to the truth than merely replaying the historical facts. Not to mention that because of what we talked about earlier, there's not that much that's known about Joseph nor written about him. And so part of our job was to try to responsibly connect the dots,
Great, great. So how was it directing Kelvin Harrison Jr.? I think, he's so talented, and I think this role that he played was just phenomenal. I would love to get your thoughts on being behind the scenes and on set with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an amazing actor. And he is, I think it's important for me to remind viewers and listeners that nothing comes easy. It's boring. It may be mundane observation, right? But whether you're talking about Kobe or Michael Jordan or Kelvin Harrison Jr., the fact of the matter is there's no substitute for hard work, focus, and dedication. And Kelvin brought all of that to this role, and he needed to, because it's such a demanding piece. It's a lot. And he was incredible. He was a great collaborator, and I can't say enough about his performance. I'm just really proud of him.
Great. Same. Well, that's my time. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations. Amazing film.